Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this month's meeting of the Technical Transportation Committee. I will bring this meeting officially to order. Our first item of business is approval of minutes from the previous meeting. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll proceed with the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion passes. The minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is access permits. We have an NDOT representative here today.
We do. So I asked the permit manager last night if she had prepared this, and her answer was there had been no change in the last 2 months. So I take her at her word. Apparently in this particular area, there hasn't been much permit activity, which is unusual.
All right. Thank you. So we'll move along to the next item. That is the amendment of the 2024 through 28 and 26 through 30 Transportation Improvement Program. Doug, you have the floor.
Great, thank you very much. And again, just a quick update on why we are amending both the 24 and 26 tips is that we're kind of in this gray area where the 26 tip, while we adopted it locally, it has not been adopted yet by NDOT, Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administration. We're hopeful that it will be adopted next month, but knowing the staffing levels at Federal Highway and FTA, I could see this go out to August or September, just because, you know, what's happened with that and then past experiences. So that's why we're amending both tips. The first one here is City Bus. Some good news is that their transit division recently awarded special federal funds. They call it Section 5339 funds. And these are funds dedicated to purchasing buses or for working and improving facilities. City Bus was awarded these funds. There was the amount of federal funds is actually $427,719. They will use a match of just a pinch over $100,000, giving a total cost of $534,649, and that will be used for a 35-foot CNG bus. And this is going to replace an older one, a 2011 model. So with that, we need to process the tip and change it to reflect the additional funds being received. So we are asking for your approval of this amendment to the policy board. Any questions or comments?
I don't think you're supposed to do it yourself. I'll move to approve the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further questions or debate? None being. Let's proceed with the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I believe that was unanimous. You have
Great.
your approval.
Thank you very much. The second amendment here is unfortunately some disappointing news in that recently we received updated funding numbers from NDOT, specifically looking at our fiscal year 2025 federal funds. When we were looking at the TIP, the current one, NDOT gave us an estimate in terms of how much money they think our area will receive. Unfortunately, it was over what we actually will be receiving or have received. So instead of going back and changing already what we have obligated, they are basically reducing our fiscal year 2026 federal funds. We've had this situation in the past, but not losing federal funds, actually gaining additional federal funds. Unfortunately, this year we're losing $230,817. Now, also to play and mix with this picture is that Federal Highway Administration does have what they call TIFA funds. These are Transportation Infrastructure Finance Innovative Act funds, and these are basically federal funds that are for loans, and states other than Indiana did not obligate all those federal funds. And since states did not, Federal Highway Administration pulls that back to not lose it, and Indiana received some of that. The good news is that these funds are not loans. They're actually funds that we can use and don't have to pay back like our regular federal funds. So anyway, we have some different categories thrown into this, so they keep it separate and track it. We now have a TIFA STBG and a TIFA Transportation Alternatives, or TA funds. So the picture is somewhat different than normal, like this past year or previous years. So the big question is, since we're not allocated what we thought we were going to get for fiscal year 26, that reduction, what are we going to do? Unfortunately, this will impact 1, 2, or 3 projects for the next fiscal year coming up. And those projects are 1, the construction of the first phase of South 9th Street. 2, the first construction project for the emergency vehicle preemption. And 3 is the right-of-way phase for Soldiers Home Road, basically phase 1. So last Friday, had a good meeting with both Jeremy and Natalia, and we discussed how to go about this. So instead of putting them on the spot today, we actually went ahead and discussed this and came up with, I think, a good plan. And that's what we're presenting here as what would be the official fiscal year, state fiscal year 2026 federal fund allocation. Basically, the emergency vehicle preemption project, since that is dealing mostly with safety, that amount will stay the same. But the 2 projects, the South 9th Street project and the Soldiers Home project, will both take a hit. So the idea was that there's 2 numbers there, figure out the proportion as to what the total is, and with the reduction, take that same percentage and reduce both projects. So basically what it comes out to is that the South 9th Street project will go from $5,078,934 to $4,876,515. Well, anyway, the loss is just a pinch over $200,000. It's the exact amount is $202,419. The Soldiers Home Road project would be reduced by $28,398, so the new amount would be $684,138. So those are the new allocation total amounts. And then I went through and looked at, allocating the individual funding categories per project and put that as a proposal to do that. I did call, or actually email, the gentleman in central office who is over the local individual project funding, and ask specifically, since we are taking a big hit in safety funds, what to do. And because the STBG, these new funds are funded at an 80-20 split and not the safety amount, which is a 90-10 split. And his response was that NDOT, at least when for local projects, they will allocate these special funds such as safety. So my expectation is when we come to the point to allocate or actually obligate these funds, reaching out to him and specifically ask if we can exchange our STBG funds for safety funds and then just fully fund that project with 90-10 split. So basically, that's it. Unfortunately, it's disappointing news. Are there any comments or questions?
So we are looking for a motion to accept that.
Second.
Thank you. Any further comment or questions? Appearing to be none, I'll proceed with the vote. All in favor of the plan to handle all the reductions, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, APC progress report is our next item under the MPO update. First item is from City Bus. I believe we have a presentation's been set up here for you, Brian.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tim. And if you were at the policy board meeting, Ryan, this will be mostly what Smith talked about. I apologize for the duplication. So we're going to cover two topics, just give an update on our fare structure change and then our network change. And if you are interested in some more information, there's some more details on the website. Next slide. Two slides summarizing some of the changes. So our fare structure has not been changed for about 2 decades. We've added a little bit of technological advances and changes kind of around the edge, but not had a real holistic approach. So these are the highlights for some of the changes. The first is we'll be moving to a 2-hour fare window as opposed to a per trip fare. So currently you board the bus, you pay $1, you can get a transfer, but it's a one trip under a 2-hour fare window. This would allow folks who are taking short trips to save some money. You know, if you're just running to the library to drop off your library books and you're going to go back home, you can probably get that done in 2 hours. So you're paying one fare instead of two. We will be expanding half fare eligibility. Currently, youth riders ride for free. We'll be recategorizing youth riders as half fare eligibility. This is an increase in that fare that youth riders will be paying, but we believe it is still a lower cost versus the full fare. The next item has to do with technology. We'll be implementing easy fare technology systems on a mobile app platform with reloadable smart cards. We currently do have a mobile platform called Token Transit that we've had for, I think, maybe about 8 years. So this will be expanding and upgrading that technology, including the installation of validators on the buses. And I have some slides about some of the technology implications. But we'll be expanding that technology. Next slide, please. We will be adjusting some of our pass offerings. So currently we have a 1-day pass and we have a 31-day pass, regular fare and half fare. But we'll be introducing a reduced half fare 1-day pass, which we've never had. And then we'll be replacing our semester passes with a 6-month pass, just a slightly different approach to long-term passes, trying to balance flexibility with economies of scale. We will be discontinuing tokens and paper transfers. So currently you can buy tokens like similar to car wash tokens or Chuck E. Cheese tokens you might buy for your kids to ride the bus at a discount per trip. Those will be eliminated, although the discount actually with the new technology will be greater, which I'll talk about in a second. But kind of the antiquated physical tokens will be going the way of the dinosaur here. The next change would be an express route fare. So we offer express service to participating partners. Apartment complexes currently purchase express service for their residents. But because we're recipients of federal funding, all of our routes are open to the public. They have historically had the same $1 fare as the regular routes. Through some analysis of what does it actually cost to provide an average trip on an average route, that comes out to about $5. So we'll be changing the express fare to match that actual cost so that folks who are not affiliated with participating complexes are paying a more equitable amount for that trip. And the last item has to do with our paratransit program, which, if you're not familiar, paratransit is a program offered to certified riders whose disability prevents them from riding the regular route buses. So the smaller vehicles you may see buzzing around town. The fare for paratransit under FTA guidelines can be as much as double the regular route fare because it's a door-to-door service and it's a little bit specialized. But we are planning on a 6-month pilot period of maintaining status quo and not increasing that fare, leaving it at $2. We'll evaluate what that may or may not do to ridership demand. And if we're able to sustain it, we'll keep the fare the same. Next slide, please. I will not go through all these dollar amounts, but it's a comparison of our current fare and the proposed fare. I'll hit the highlights. The one trip fare will be transitioning to the 2 hours and will double to $2. The 31-day pass, the day pass will also double from $2 to $4. The month pass doesn't increase at quite the same rate. It's going from $28 to $50. And then the semester pass will transition to a 6-month pass at the $178 price point. The price changes won't go into effect until January. Pending board approval, I should have probably led with that. The board will be considering this in July. This is what's being proposed and deliberated right now. Next slide. A little bit about the fare technology. So with the Easy Fare platform and the validators that are being installed on the buses, actually this week, they're on, I think, 6 buses so far, we'll be able to introduce account-based ticketing. So currently, if you buy a bus pass, it just kind of exists on its own and it's not really tied to you and it's not smart in that sense. So with the Easy Fare platform, you'll be able to tie your smartphone or your smart card to your individual account. And there's some benefits there where we can offer what's called fare capping. Fare capping is another way for riders to save money. So under the current no technology solution, you pay $1 a trip. You may end up where, over the course of a month, in 31 days, you may spend 40 or 50 bucks where you could have bought a $28 monthly pass, but if you didn't have $28 to assemble at any given time to pre-purchase the pass, you just kind of eat that. Where with the account-based ticketing, the system is able to track when you pay enough fare to get a day pass and you're done paying for the day, or you've paid enough fare to equal the cost of a monthly pass and you're done paying for the month. So it's really a way for us to reduce the impact on the riders for the fare increase. I think of it, it's kind of like, what's the effective tax? So you have kind of like, what's the effective fare increase? That'll be really hard to track, but by implementing things like fare capping, it's a way to mitigate that increase. And a change in the way folks approach interacting with bus fare is pre-purchasing passes is something that you really don't have to do. So traditionally, you kind of think, okay, I'm going to ride the bus, I'm going to go buy a pass, and then I'll ride for a month, and then I got to go buy a pass. With this technology, it's called tap and ride. So you really don't have to think about it. You just load money into your account, and you tap, and the system kind of takes care of how much fare you're using and makes sure that you pay the lowest price. So it is exciting. There will be a bit of a learning curve. It's new, but it will undoubtedly save riders some money. Next slide. Talk about the route network next. There are a few comprehensive operations analysis things to pull out. We've been conducting this analysis since November. Our community, there's a high demand for transit. Unfortunately, given our financial constraints, we can't meet all of that. And even our lowest performing routes are, by industry standards, at least average performers, or compared to some communities, high performers. I think Doug talked about the stick numbers at last meeting. That's kind of where we live in the world of demand. Our board has set standards that we will focus about 3/4 of our annual hours on providing frequent service, and about 1/4 of our hours providing coverage service in the neighborhoods. And I'm going to get into how that breaks down here in the next slides. And then the last thing to mention about the COA is really trying to enhance our route network by streamlining routes, increasing bidirectional routes as opposed to loops where you're on the bus longer, and improving connectivity points. Next slide. Our routes will now be in two categories. Core routes that provide frequent service in high demand, high density areas, and local routes that provide less frequent coverage service in lower demand areas. Next slide, please. These are a few of the opportunities and challenges that have been identified with the COA. So we will be able to offer about 20-minute frequencies during peak time on core routes, which is up from currently it's 30 to 60 minutes. Local routes will be able to have 30-minute frequencies. So even at our least frequent times, they beat out the current times. It's a good improvement. With improved connectivity, folks should be spending less time on the bus to get where they're going. And we will be operating consistent service on Saturdays. Currently, Saturday service goes way down. On the challenge side of the coin, we had to pull back our service day. So we have reduced service between 9 p.m. and midnight. And I'll get into some of which buses are running at what times in the next slides. But the local service will also see a reduction, only running from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and we'll be eliminating Sunday service. That's something that we aren't particularly fond of, but when we get into pros and cons and trade-offs, it really makes the most sense, we believe, to offer consistent service on the 6 days that you're operating versus a greatly reduced service that really isn't as meaningful on the weekend. Next slide. So this is the system map showing the entire route network. One thing of note, the current route numbers and names will be changed to improve wayfinding for riders using street names. If you don't spend a lot of time on the buses, you may not realize, but we have some of the names are a little antiquated. We have a Lafayette Square route, and that shopping center hasn't been called Lafayette Square for, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 years. So this is the total system map. Go to the next slide. These are the core routes. So these are the high frequency routes. You can see it's similar to kind of the work we do with the thoroughfare plan. These are the main corridors where we provide the most service. Next slide is the local routes, the feeder routes that support the core route network. Next slide. So I've created some slides based on time of day to help kind of visualize the network over the day. So in the first hour, you're running just the core routes. Next slide. From 7 to 6, all the routes are running. You can see everything's kind of up and turning. Next slide. Then at 6, it's going to go back down from 6 to 9 to just the core routes. And then finally, the last slide, the last few hours of the day, we'll be running just kind of a diagonal line through the most demand. It's a bit of a line of best fit. Unfortunately, we do miss a lot, but trying to provide as much service as possible. Next slide. A key here is to improve connectivity and have less trips coming to the CBC. So currently operating a pulse network, basically if you want to get anywhere, you got to go downtown and then back out. And trying to break up that pattern to improve people's connectivity, we've identified secondary transfer points, Ivy Tech, Walmart West, Walmart East, and Payless on Beck Lane. Go to the next slide, please. A map identifying those. So under the current network, you can travel and live and potentially never go to the CBC depending on where you're moving. But even if you do have to go to the CBC, you may have to go there less often. That will greatly improve things for riders in their ability to get around. I think, next slide, I think that may be it. Perfect. So I know that's a lot. Try to buzz through all of it, but just a pulse check on where City Bus is and what we're doing. The board will be voting on the route network at this month's meeting next week, and then the fare change stuff is still out for public hearing and will be voted on the following month with the actual changes in price point taking effect in January. So trying to give people a little bit of notice on potential change, but really improving the service. Happy to answer any specific questions anybody may have.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions?
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you all.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is federal funding. Doug, you're back up, and you can proceed with the 18-month letting list after that.
Great, thank you. Since we are in the last month of the state fiscal year and we have all of our 2025 federal funds obligated, we thought this would be a good opportunity to show you how other MPOs handled their federal funds. This is a spreadsheet that is sent to us every month from central office. And as you can see, nearly all or a great majority of them actually obligated all their federal funds, except for 4. And I'll point out Anderson, for example, they obligated just only roughly 70% of their federal funds. So what does that mean? Those federal funds, for example, Anderson, which was just under $1 million, doesn't go back to other MPOs. I wish it did, but it goes back to NDOT for use of their projects. So basically, if we don't obligate our funds, we lose out. NDOT benefits from that. So that's why I continue to make sure that we obligate them during the year. But we thought we'd just show you this information. The other 3 are Louisville, the KIPTA MPO, and the other 2 are in the Northwest Indiana Regional Plan Commission, Michigan City, and then Valparaiso Shorewood Forest. So if you look specifically at the Indianapolis MPO, you see all zeros. They have worked out a trade with NDOT in that their federal funds, instead of them allocating their federal funds and go through the process of what we do, NDOT keeps those federal funds, but then gives the MPO basically state funds, so they do not have all of the criteria that we have to follow with our federal aid projects. And the benefit of that is you can use it for whatever. So, for example, transportation alternative funds, you have to use that on, for example, like trails. For these funds, you could use it for any project. The downside is that if I'm pulling out a number, if Indianapolis gets $12–15 million a year in federal funds, they do not receive that exact amount in state funds. It's at a reduced number. So there was discussion about other MPOs joining that, but since then, from my understanding, is that trade is not occurring anymore. So, but we thought this would be some good information just to show you how other MPOs are doing across the state with their federal funds. Going on to the 18-month letting list, the first project was let back in May on I-65, a small structure pipelining project. The letting information is on the back. It was awarded. The low bid was basically $1.8 million, even though the estimate was under $1 million. There were 2 bids, and the estimated completion date is May 29th of 26. Going back to the front page, Project 2, the next one coming up. This is small structures and drainage construction on Special 52. That's, of course, on the July letting. Looking down the list, quite exciting. We see in January the 9th Street projects on the bid letting. Keep my fingers crossed. Going down a pinch further, Project 13. This is on State Road 38. That project has moved from a November 25 bid letting to a January 26 bid letting. And then the last one I'd like to point out is the one on 21, October 26 letting, traffic signals, for the Wabash River. So overall, otherwise, they are still scheduled and moving forward. Any questions or comments, not only on this, but the other MPO funding?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've reached the point in the agenda where we entertain other business that anyone has to bring before the committee. Since there appears to be none, we'll move on with citizen comments. Again, there doesn't appear to be any. So I will next entertain a motion to adjourn. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
None opposed, right? I declare this meeting adjourned until we meet again next month.